On to this now, 49-year-old David Sejobe will be laid to rest today in Mokondeni village in Limpopo. Sejobe died after being struck by a vehicle while traveling to work last week Friday. He was an avid cyclist and also would ride every day from his house in Orange Farm to Randburg, covering a total of 172 kilometers daily. Let's speak now to Luthando Kaka, former pro cyclist, as well as a director of operations at Ride4hope, as well as Jeremy Maartens, an ex-pro cyclist, as well as a broadcaster, joining us via Zoom this morning to speak to us, of course, about cycling safety in the country and what needs to be done to keep cyclists safe in this country. Gentlemen, a very good morning to you both, and thank you so much for your time on Newzroom Afrika. Jeremy, I'll start with you, right? We speak about David Sejobe, who died last week Friday in an alleged hit and run on his way to work. Just a few days later, there were two cyclists who also were involved in a hit and run accident and also died on the scene. The safety of our cyclists on South African roads is a concerning issue. Just speak to us about that as well.
Yeah, it is becoming an issue in South Africa. Over the December time in Cape Town, we also had two cyclists that were fatally injured in the Cape. And then, the last weekend was not a good day in South African cycling either. We had David that was struck down on Friday. And then, unfortunately, on Sunday, there were two riders out here in the walkable area that also struck down and their lives were taken. Ultimately, in this situation, people's lives are affected on all sides of the argument. And it's just a sad, sad state.
Yeah, indeed, a sad state of affairs. Luthando, let's bring you into this conversation now. I'm wondering, though, whether cyclists have become more fearful of getting onto their bike and riding their bikes on the road, or have they become more cautious and more aware of their surroundings?
Yeah, good morning, and good morning to your viewers. I think it's quite a sad morning for, of course, the Sejobe family and sad state of affairs for our country. I think you also mentioned a very good question. I mean, in the sense that the unfortunate thing is that we as weekend warriors or people who actually cycle for fun have the luxury of choosing which roads we can use based on how safe they are. But unfortunately, people like David, they don't have that luxury. You know, to have to ride from home to work every morning, you don't have the luxury of choosing which roads to use or not. You're just looking at the most possible route to get to work. And that is why we are here today talking about this very sad tragedy, is that, of course, the roads are not safe. They're not safe for commuters, and they're also not safe for sports people in general.
Just speaking about that, the David Sejobe, Luthando, you had the honor of meeting him a couple of years ago when he took on that audacious trip of traveling close to 600 kilometers from Randburg, from his workplace, not far from here, by the way, the multi-choice buildings, to Venda, to honor his father. As Ride4hope, obviously, you decided to support him in that trip. Talk to us about that story for many of us who might not be aware of that story and why it was important for Ride4hope to be involved and help that David Sejobe in that trip to Venda.
Yes, I think the trip to Venda inspired a lot of people, including us at Ride4hope. But of course, we only heard about the trip during the course of it. And we were also quite inspired by it so much that we extended an invite to Ndate David to say, after this very inspiring trip that you took to Venda, which was a one-man trip, could you come and join us in our 4-day trek for Nelson Mandela, as we build schools around the country. And he was gracious enough to come and join us at Ride4hope and spend 4 days with us riding from Johannesburg to Howick to the Nelson Mandela capture site. So it was through the inspiration of his ride did we actually reach out to him and invited him to our ride. And it's just unfortunate that things have happened the way they are, because we were really looking forward to the impact that he was yet to make, because he's quite a great guy. He was quite a great guy, and he brought that energy to Ride4hope when he joined us for the trip, and he helped us raise funds and awareness for the Nelson Mandela Foundation and the needy schools across the country. So he's someone that has left a huge footprint, and we are just blessed to have experienced his kindness and had him with us during the time that he did come to support us.
Sure. Jeremy, let's bring you back into this conversation. He has an incredible story, and that David Sejobe. So he traveled 172 kilometers daily to and from work. So it was an 86-kilometer ride from Orange Farm to Randburg. He spent about 2 hours on a trip to work and 2 hours back, 172 kilometers a day. As a professional and ex-professional cyclist, talk to us about what is required fitness-wise for somebody to ride 172 kilometers a day?
Because just to put things in perspective, if he took on that 600-kilometer ride to commemorate his father, I mean, 600 kilometers in one shot, that's a hell of a long way. I mean, the average person in the road, they do the races like the Cape Town Cycle Tour and the Ride4hope. Those are 100 kilometers, and people train for 4 months and months just to do that, and they finish their 100-kilometer event, and they're pretty much knackered. David went and did 600 kilometers in one shot, and he got through comfortably. Then having to do those 170 kilometers a day, that's a massive, massive feat. And again, just to put it in perspective, you've got guys that are riding the Cape Town Cycle Tour, and the Ride4hope goes about 100 Ks, and people are pretty buggered after that for quite a while. So the man obviously had a lot. He was very, very fit individual. I think something that you also need to bring into that, he would ride in all conditions. If it's sunny like it is today, it's easy. If it's raining, it's not going to be a pleasant situation. Then in winter, when it gets cold, the job still has to get done. So it's a very, very hard man mentally, because it's not easy to ride when the weather's not great, raining, windy, freezing cold in the middle of winter. It's not an easy job to do.
Yeah, and I was doing a couple of calculations. So it would be about 850 kilometers a week if he did that for 5 days in a week. Endurance-wise, what is required for somebody to do that? 850 kilometers a week, 5 days a week. And he was not even a professional cyclist. Do even professional cyclists reach that in a week, 850 kilometers?
It depends on certain riders training for certain events. Some professionals will do that a little bit more, but it depends on the demand of event that they are chasing. You've got the other guys that are more sprint focused that won't do as much. But like I said, the average person who will ride the Cape Town Cycle Tour or the Ride4hope, they train for quite a fair amount of time just to be able to get in shape, just to ride 100 kilometers for the chosen event. And this man was doing more than that daily. So he was clearly a very fit man. He had the condition. And I think the biggest thing for me would stand out would be his mental toughness, because you've got to do it every day. It doesn't matter how you feel. If you're lucky, the weather's good. If you're unlucky, the weather's bad. But you've got to get the job done. So, yeah, very tough, man.
Yeah, also what was profound about his story as well, Luthando, was that he lived with asthma as well as diabetes for the longest time. And he spoke about how cycling literally changed his life and became his lifesaver. He talks about how he was able to manage his diabetes as well as asthma to a point where he lived asthma-free and without diabetes as well. It's an incredible story. It speaks about the benefits, right? The health benefits of cycling as well. And that David Sejobe was a testament of that.
No, definitely he was. And I mean, for someone who made such a massive and a great impression on many people, I mean, to have to do those kilometers day in and day out with all of the challenges that he had, and most people do have. But I mean, to put on a smile and be the type of person that he was, because that is a job, because I'm also one of the people who once in a while I would be riding past multi-choice just after 5 o'clock in the morning. And we always found him in that corner. He would be greeting, encouraging us every morning and in afternoons as well when we ride past there. So he was that type of a person. He found a reason to smile. No matter how tired or just lacking motivation, he was someone that would just jump up and down, salute you, greet you, and all of that. Just change your mood. So he really did make a huge impression on most people. And I'm also encouraged by South Africans who currently, I mean, there's a Becker Buddy page that's dedicated to his family, and I'm actually encouraged by what's the love that many South Africans are showing towards his family, because he's someone that left an impression. And I think it's upon us to try and and do a little bit that we can towards his family and the well-being of his children as well. Yeah, it's actually quite tragic, and it also just brings to light the state of affairs in terms of sharing the roads between pedestrians, commuters, cyclists, and motorists. I think we can do better as a country, and we really need to do better.
And what is to do better, Luthando? On South African roads, are there lanes dedicated to cyclists? I haven't seen them. What can be done to make sure that the roads can accommodate both a cyclist and a motorist?
I think most importantly, we need to value human life. I mean, we don't necessarily need lanes to allow people to value other people's lives. I mean, if you see a cyclist, if you see a runner, just give them way, give them enough space that you don't hurt them. You know, a vehicle is a very powerful and yet also dangerous thing. If you are behind the wheel, just be cognizant that you carry other people's lives in your hands. Just that needs just to take effect. But also, I think it also we call upon the government to do make provision of those yellow lanes, all the stakeholders, because this is not only a cyclist problem, it's also a runner's problem, it's also a commuter's, general public problem. That we all need to look into and find solutions. And as much as we can call on the government, we unfortunately can't be put in a situation whereby we say up until those lanes, cycling, running lanes are in place, it is what we see today. I think, we'll call upon the government to say, let's protect people like David Sejobe who have to commute to work in the early hours, in the dark of the morning. You know, let's see how we can best protect those people, because they need to go to work. They have no other choice. And as cyclists, as my colleague can attest, we can choose areas like the Cradle of Humankind, which offers relative safety. But people that have to go to work, we need to just pay attention and protect their lives as well.
Yeah. Jeremy, what is your take on that? Cyclists being safe on the roads, how do they keep themselves safe on the roads? What can they do?
I agree with what...
Yeah.
I agree fully with what Luthando said there, that I think motorists and people in general need to have a little bit more compassion, understanding for all road users, be it runners, be it cyclists, be it whatever it is. You know, just because you see a person on a bike, whether it's training for sport or commuting, the people shouldn't look at this person as, well, what are you doing taking over the road? This is my road, in my vehicle. I belong here, you don't. Let me just scare you, because people do die and people do have families that rely on these people, whether you're using the road for sport or for commuting. There needs to be a hell of a lot more respect, I think, for human life, as opposed to just thinking, I'm in this vehicle and you're in my way, so get out the way. My time is more valuable than yours. You shouldn't be here. Just a bit more respect for all road users.
All right. Jeremy, Luthando, gentlemen, thank you so much for your time this morning on The Weekend Report. Luthando Kaka, former cyclist, as well as the Director of Operations at Ride4hope, and Jeremy Maartens, an ex-pro cyclist and also a cycling commentator and a broadcaster. They're speaking about the importance of keeping cyclists alive and well on the roads, and how those safety tips will be quite crucial, of course, on the back of the news of David Sejobe's death, who died, of course, last week Friday on his way to work in an alleged hit and run.